But let's hear from Dan Quinn today when he addressed the news on Jayden Daniels.
Well, let's start with just, I thought it was a good process to go through, like all the players do, get, second opinions and getting all the information, of what to do and how to do it. I thought the guys nailed that. Dr. Nunziata ran point on that, but, consulting all the people, and Jayden was involved with that as well. So it's a good deal with no surgery. Obviously, that makes a big difference. You have an injury, not to have to go down that road. I hope to give you guys an update after the bye week about where he is and, where we go from there. But after that, I'll give you an update on where it's at, and we'll give us a couple weeks to get to that space.
So Dan Quinn kicks the can down the road on timetable of a return. After the bye week means you play the Lions this week, you fly to Madrid early next week, you play the Dolphins next weekend in what will be week 11. The bye week is week 12, and then that week 13 game is actually the game we're giving away the tickets to today, where you welcome the Broncos, currently scheduled for Sunday Night Football. Possibly you get flexed out of prime time. We'll see how the season's going at that point. But we've got 2 pairs we're giving away out here at Char Bar. You can come on out and register to win today. But that would be week 13. So he's saying, I'm going to update you after the bye week. Normally they don't do that on Mondays post-game. So my guess is somewhere in that 17th to 19th of November range, about 10 to 12 days from now, Quinn will address the plan with Jayden Daniels. Do you bring him back right away as soon as week 13 against Miami? Does he need another week or two? It would seem to me, though, that if he's not a possibility to return against the Dolphins, you would just put him on IR right now, because you could take him off short-term IR after missing 4 games and bring him back week 14, week 15 for the final stretch of the season. By not putting him on IR today, doesn't it make you think they believe he might not have to miss 4 games?
That's the impression that I get. I'm sort of doing the backwards counting math, kind of the same way you did.
What other implication would there be?
Well, that's fair. There's no other implication. There is, however, the recent past of the mistake they made, where Terry McLaurin should have been on IR and wasn't because he missed enough weeks, where they think they got a chance, but I guess there's no harm in keeping him up. If you think he's coming back and then it turns out it takes an extra week or 2 or whatever.
They also did that with Noah Brown, by the way.
Yep.
They missed the boat on both guys in terms of IR versus weeks where they could not be taking up a roster spot. Now, it doesn't matter that much because it's not like that roster spot is a Hall of Famer coming in here to change the season.
But to drill down, just to clarify the point, I think you're right. It's their view that we think he can come back. And that's why they're not doing it now. They don't want to eliminate the possibility of that 3rd or 4th game that he wouldn't be able to play, which is just unbelievable that that's even on the table.
Yeah, 2-parter to the story for me. The first, which we've kind of addressed, is what an amazing thing.
Unbelievable.
How staggering is this guy's ability, seemingly, to avoid the scariest situation? I mean, remember when we were awaiting word on the knee, and then we were awaiting word on the hamstring, and now we're awaiting word on the elbow, and every single time it's been almost best case scenario in a sense. So simultaneously, if you're going to do this conversation that a lot of us are, and you're going to have the dialogue about his durability and the number of injuries piling up and all that, fair, reasonable. Anybody who shouts you down is probably being unreasonable. But I think you also have to acknowledge with each of these injuries, something about him has allowed him to avoid what looked really, really bad at the time.
Yep.
And what was feared as possibly being way, way worse. So that's amazing. That's the number one takeaway here. Number 2, I think the conversation that you then have to have is, how should they handle the return and what should the plan be? What does it mean for the rest of this season that as of right now, internally I'm sure they've got some idea of what they want to do. They're not going to say it yet. But are they waiting 2 weeks to see, post-bye week, you lost to the Lions, you beat the Dolphins, let's take a peek at the standings and see where we're at? Is it as simple as if you win somehow, some way against Detroit this week, then you're probably in a pick'em game against Miami and you go 2-0 and the season's back on? Now there's all the more reason to bring him back? I guess that's what I want to know is, when he says, I'll update you in a couple of weeks, is it that's when we're going to have more information on his elbow and know when he's going to come back? Or are they waiting to see whether or not it's worth bringing him back based on the year they're having?
I think it's the former. But, again, I wouldn't put the context of it all past them. And I guess what I mean is You go, if we somehow shock the world here this week, right? If we do something insane and beat the Detroit Lions that nobody thinks we're going to do, and then you've got a winnable game against Miami, you could, quote-unquote, have that sliver of a season still. Again, they're still in a terrible place in the NFC. Still in an awful place in the NFC, simply because of all the games they've lost, their record, how poor it's been, et cetera. They basically have to have a run at the end of the year where they win all their NFC East games and Philadelphia has to collapse. I'm literally viewing it that way. I don't know that they are. They're just kind of waiting around until they're mathematically eliminated, if it's scenario 2 that you laid out. But to me, this is Jayden Daniels needs work. He's our guy. The instant he's safe and eligible and able to come back and protect himself and so on, that's the plan. And I think that's it. I think that's governing their thinking. That's me basing that on what they've done earlier this year, where they were judicious, cautious, maybe said, slow down there, buddy. I know you're chomping at the bit. You're going to take an extra week. We're going to make sure you're right.
So it would feel nuts to me if Daniels played in Week 13 against the Broncos in a showdown with fellow second-year first-round pick Bo Nix. But by them not putting him on IR, I guess it is a possibility still. Toby, you just flashed something to me that Khalil Mack suffered a serious elbow dislocation as well, but avoided ligament damage, and we now know what his timeline looks like.
Yeah, so he hurt his elbow in Week 2, and he was back by Week 7. Now, he was placed on injured reserve, so he had to miss the 4 games, but it looked bad, everything that you saw with Jayden. You remember some of the talk up, like, oh, my gosh.
His season's over.
Yeah, and he was able to come back in just missing 4 games. So, potentially, Jayden could come back in that sort of time frame as well.
In that timeline here would be 3 games and a bye, which gets you to Week 13 and to Miami, which is, again, that's wild to me. Based on everything that we were thinking.
I just can't believe it.
It's staggering.
I can't believe it.
Here's something else I can't believe, though. And every now and then, like we used to do a segment, and maybe we could bring it back. Am I on crazy pills, I think we called it? And I cannot understand why I seem to be saying something that is so divisive or polarizing or creating vitriol. I think I'm saying the sky is blue. I think I'm saying soda's delicious. And apparently I'm not. I'm going to tell you exactly what I tweeted that led to a bunch of blowback here, because I want to be specific about it. I said, after the news came out on Jayden Daniels, if the Jayden Daniels timeline is expedited, as it seems it will be, he's going to be able to make several more starts this season. That's huge. I never understood the argument that he shouldn't be brought back at the end of the year anyway. Of course he should be. Young players need to play football. He needs to get the time on the grass. He's missed valuable practices and games this year. When he's healthy, he should be playing. Now, in this hypothetical that I'm about to reference, where Jayden Daniels comes back and plays, the obvious point is that he is healthy. You don't rush him back. You don't get him back at 90 or 79%. This is not if we had a playoff game this weekend, he could go, but we're going to hold him out because he's not quite right. No. What I'm saying is, if Jayden Daniels is a healthy quarterback on your roster, as soon as that happens and you've got games left, Jayden Daniels should be playing football. Now, if it's the last week of the year, if it's Week 18, Game 17, and that's when he gets healthy, and you've got 3 linemen out and no receivers because McLaurin has now already packed his bags for wherever because he's still hurt, and Deebo Samuel's not playing, I'm not a crazy person. I could have that conversation. But what I'm looking at is the possibility where he could actually get 5-6 games or 4 games or something like that in. And yes, let's say mathematically you're next to eliminated or you're not going to make the playoffs. That has no bearing over his recovery to me at all. This is a second-year player who needs games. He needs, I'll quote his offensive coordinator, time on task, who needs time on the grass, who needs reps. Are you a young player? Are you a young player at the hardest position in sports? You know how you get better? You play. And everyone's like, you got to protect him. They can't protect him in pass protection. None of his injuries have happened in the pocket because they can't protect him in the passing game. Their offensive line's completely healthy and intact right now, all 5 of their projected starters. I don't know what I'm saying that is incendiary, but people think it's the craziest thing I've ever said, that a healthy Jayden Daniels should return as soon as possible.
So I'll do my best. Okay? Keep in mind I'm doing my best.
Do you agree with that point?
Which one? That he should play when he can?
If he's healthy,
yeah.
he should, At no point should they sit Daniels this year while healthy to redshirt him for September. I don't understand that.
If, like, Brady of a few years ago was coming back from something catastrophic for a team that was going nowhere, I'd go, yeah, you could sit him. What's the point? Right? And now he'd probably want to play, and sort of that's that. But, an old veteran quarterback that's, doesn't have this track record, I could have a conversation that it's actually more enlightened for people to say, hey, let's hold off and not rush him back and not have him play.
I wonder if there's even a precedent, though.
There isn't.
Of a fully healthy starting quarterback, franchise QB, second contract guy, star quarterback type player, getting back to health and his team kind of going, well, we have a bad record, so let's just wait till the next season. What? I don't even understand that.
It's not done, but I think that somebody would be an innovator to sort of do that and say, this is pointless. I'm not going to risk anything. We'll get a better draft pick. We know he's our guy. But no one will make – that's just not the culture of football. To me, the best argument is they can't protect him. He's running around because he's not protected. And whether it's his fault, the Lions' fault, the play design's fault, whatever, he wasn't hurt on a play in the backfield. He was hurt escaping a free rusher. Now, whose fault is that? I don't know and I don't care. That's what he's walking back into. That's the best argument that I can come up with is we right now have a track record of somebody that is not protected, whether that's in the pocket, outside, his fault, coach's fault, player's fault. I don't care.
Right.
He's been hurt so many times. He's taking too many hits. That has to change. And until I feel confident that that's not going to happen again, I maybe will hold off on playing him. That's the best argument.
Right.
I think.
The issue with the argument is that was one game where they had a high pressure rate like that. That has not been the norm this season. The Seahawks are really good, and it was a matchup that didn't go well, and he got pressured on half of the snaps, to your point. But that's not how the season's played out. This is not one of the worst pass protection offensive lines in the league. And then secondly, the free rusher, that was not a breakdown. That was not some situation where all of a sudden Josh Connerly forgot who he was blocking. That was the design of an RPO, where you're reading that guy to hand the ball to the guy going downhill or making the quick throw outside to Deebo Samuel or whatever. Now, he made an incredible play to make the guy miss, and take the play call to task, say that it shouldn't have been put in that predicament. But the idea that, like, he's been pressured on half of his dropbacks in other games or that's the norm this year, it just isn't.
It's not, but defenses are teeing off on them. Everything's downhill. Terrible defenses are getting right against them. It's a matter of time when everybody realizes there's no threat, and if you've got no outlets that scare anybody, there's going to be more free rushers, and it's not going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, football's going to happen. You got to play football. There's a football season that goes from September to January, and there's 17 games during it. And when you're healthy, you go out and you play football, and you get better, and you improve. If they had this, like, perilous offensive line situation, I would buy it. Like Mike Shanahan, many, many years ago, back in
it was the end of
2013, yes.
Didn't play Griffin because
benched Robert Griffin after 13 games. Now, what he said publicly was, we can't protect him. We don't want him to keep taking hits. Really, the problem at the time was actually that Griffin was taking hits by holding the ball, and he had regressed to a point where they're like, he's not seeing it. He's taking too many shots. We got to get him out of there. But the public point was, and everyone took the meat and ate it, and it was delicious, was like, we're saving this guy and we're redshirting him for the rest of the season so that he goes into the offseason healthy, essentially. But really, they just benched him to try somebody else. But if we want to pretend like that was the reality of why they did it, that's kind of what people are looking for, I guess, is like, let's just sit him until the start of next season. Man, I don't know how you can watch this season play out and go, you know what would help him is to play less. After a summer where they opted not to have him throw a single pass in the preseason, where he's had, Cliff talks about it every week, not enough time in practice with his teammates, one of the biggest reasons for the offensive woes, basically. Now, will coming back for 3 or 4 games make him put him in a better spot going into year 3? I don't know. I would think so. I think his development benefits from it. But, like, could he still have an incredible year 3 and start off fast and great in September of next year if he doesn't play again the rest of the way? That's very possible, too. I just don't know how much of a precedent there is and why that would be a hot-button thought, that the healthy franchise quarterback should play in the games. And this is not a hypothetical of, like, a game at the end of the year. We're talking about if, let's say, in
a month plus,
week 15 with, like, 4 games left, you can bring him back and he can get 16 developmental quarters of football in a fairly low-leverage way where the game result doesn't matter a ton.